Here we are at the Monthly Dragon, the last show of 2025. Don't worry, we're going to be back in 2026.
Oh,
We appreciate that all of you are enjoying the show so much. You're appreciating the work that Chris is putting in all those analysis and all those dragon thingies which are happening every single month. And this month, oh my God, we have such a big treat. I have no idea yet, but
yeah.
I'm sure.
You you don't actually know we have such a big tree.
I
It's
have
all,
no idea. Maybe
that's
it's
pure
horrible.
speculation. Yes. Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. And Arnie, you say I put in all the work, but truth be told, in the last couple of weeks, you have had a big input, and guess what's further? You have a big input even this week as well. Let me explain, everybody.
What?
So what I thought we would do, I thought, let's do something slightly different today. And what have we not yet spoken about? Well, one of the things we haven't really chatted about, we spoke about the anti-Sicilians in one of our sessions, I remember, but we didn't really do an early deviations type thing here. And you, Anna, sent me a message. Our readers won't, our readers, listeners, viewers, whatever they are, they won't know. You sent me a little message the other day, and I'm gonna relay a part of that message. Don't worry, not word by word.
Okay.
But here's what we're going to have. So first of all, let's talk about the good old Sicilian Dragon
What's
here.
with my hair today?
Pawn to d4, takes knight, f6, knight c3, and g6. So you sent me a game, stroke a question, stroke an idea with this move here,
Okay.
knight to d5.
I have to tell the story about this, of course.
Can I just say, Anna, just one little thing. You don't need to put your hand up. You're the only one in the class. You realize that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Still feel, sometimes I feel like I'm at school. You're my teacher,
Okay,
Chris.
go for
Is
it.
that wrong? Okay.
No?
Quickly, as you probably already figured out, Chris and I are often texting. That's not only chess related, it's also football related, but that's a whole different story. We will make another show about this every month too. No, we won't. But Andrew Martin, our beloved chess based training pro, if I may say so, because he has made like 40 chess based training courses so far. He loves to do the 60-minute courses with obscure openings. Well, I played a blitz game against him since he's there, and I love to chat with this guy. And he said, like, you know what? I'm enjoying your Dragon Show with Chris a lot. I watch it often. And I thought that was flattering. And then he said, like, how about I surprise you with this? And I said, what is that? And then he said, it's rubbish, but it is
Oh,
tricky. And damn, he was right. Now it's your turn.
right, perfect. Okay. Well, hopefully our readers will not be surprised. Our readers, why do I call us readers? Viewers, audience.
I
Knight to
have to
d5.
admit, this is the first time for you to understand. This is actually a video format. It's not for our readers. I'm not writing this down. It's not a
Okay, don't
podcast.
write it down. But they do get to see the annotation if they
True,
want to.
true.
Very
That's
true.
true.
Now, the point about knight d5. So essentially, this led me to think we're going to talk just a little bit, not much, but a little bit about early deviations. So let me explain what I mean. So in this position here, obviously we would normally expect bishop e3 if white was heading for a Yugoslav attack. White can actually play f3. That doesn't make much difference, but it just looks a bit weird playing f3 before bishop e3. Bearing in mind, of course, that the move knight to g4 to try and punish it loses horrendously to bishop b5 check, where you actually lose that knight, which is a bit of a
Yeah, we
problem.
don't want that.
So white doesn't really need to play f3 just yet. We have bishop e2, which of course is the classical variation, which looks like white is planning to castle kingside, but we have seen a system where white moves up and castles queenside, which essentially is a Yugoslav attack, but with white having deployed bishop e2 instead of pawn to f3. We've looked at that before. And also, of course, there is the fianchettoed system with pawn to g3, which looks to get the bishop whoop along that diagonal fairly swiftly. Now, as far as other moves go, are there any that are really worthy of consideration? Well, I figured when you sent me this book, the first thing I did was I'm going to consult the oracle that is Winning with the Dragon 1, which is my very first winning.
Unbelievable.
In fact, it probably wasn't called Winning with the Dragon 1, it was just called Winning with the Dragon at that stage. And so I turned to my bookshelf and I thought, Yeah, I haven't got a copy of that on my bookshelf. Of course, very difficult to get hold of that book. It is impossible. I once upon a time had it. I thought, where can I get hold of a copy of that book? And I thought, oh my word, my mum has all of my books. She has them all. I've written about 27 or so. She's got them all, and she says there's a little sign that says, no touching. It's like you're going to the zoo or something like that
Thank you,
when you go
Mom.
there. So I gave her a call and said, "Look, Mum, can you please get this Winning with a Dragon book?" I said, "Turn to there should be a section of this. Can you take some pictures and kind of like
Wow.
send them to me?" I thought to my
The
mum's
effort.
amazing. She's now the fact is I did realise she was probably breaking some infringement copyright rule by taking pictures, but as as we, as we venture, I thought as soon as I wrote the book, surely I'm allowed to do that.
It should be
Anyway, my
fine.
point was that reminds me actually. Once upon a time, rewinding back, I hope this story, it's like Christmas stories we've got going here. I went to Moscow. This was a long time ago because I was assigned the manager role of the England ladies team. Now, back in those days, that was the kind of the assignment you got when you weren't quite good enough to get into the men's team, basically. So you were manager of the women's team, and we stayed in this hotel. This was in Moscow, pretty much all the time. It was a bit unsafe to leave the hotel, but once we went out, one day we went out, and I went to this marketplace. We all went to the market, and would you believe, I saw on one of the stores my Winning with the Dragon book on sale. However, it wasn't the Winning of Dragon book as I know. It was like every page had been like photocopied and bound together with string. And on one hand, I thought, wow, someone would go to all those lengths just to sell my book. On the other hand, I thought, I won't be getting any royalties for that selling. Anyway, it's difficult to get hold of this book unless you want to go to a Moscow, kind of marketplace.
Wow.
My mum took these pages because I knew I had something on knight d5. And then the memories came flooding back. However, there are two knight d5 lines I want to bring your attention to. And mark my words, this could potentially be the best Christmas present that any of our viewers
Well,
get.
thank you.
Well, at least better than a pair of socks, probably.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
the fact is, so let's have a look at the other deviations I spoke about. So, other moves I probably spoke about knight e2. Well, what's the point of that? To relocate it to f4 and d5, maybe go g3. That's a bit naff. Don't even bother talking about that. Actually, I wrote a bit more than that in the actual book. h3. Can that be justified early doors? White planning to go g4. What a load of nonsense that is. Let's face it. Right, h3 and g4. White really wants to be doing h4 and h5 if they're going to do anything. So we don't really rate that. Knight b3. Probably more in line with the classical variation. Just premature to be dropping that knight back. Bishop d3. Well, of all the squares available to that bishop, I would only really rate that one ahead of a6. a6. So that's
A6
pretty
might be
naff.
slightly worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And other than that, then we had knight d5. But before we come on to this knight d5, I would like to talk about another move order, which is the move order knight c3 on move 3.
Okay.
So what if black is a dragon player? Should black play against this move? Now we have, you remember, I don't remember who it was. It was someone quite good, maybe even our friend, the young guy. I can't remember.
Dang Tong, the
Yeah.
Vietnamese dragon player.
Yeah, it might be him who made the mistake of playing g6 here. You think, why is that a mistake? Well, the idea is after d4, c takes d4. Now, queen takes d4 is a bit embarrassing. How do I know that? Because I made that same mistake myself one day. And the idea is that, well, can you believe it? This was in the Lloyds Bank Masters. I was playing someone quite good and actually ended up playing the move f6, which looks totally and utterly ugly, purely because I don't want to go e5. That's even worse. And after knight f6, the move e5 really was somewhat unappealing. So yeah, because takes queen takes knight takes e5. It's just an ugly move. So g6, I believe, is definitely a mistake here. Now, It is possible to play knight f6, nothing wrong with that. But my problem was back in those days as a junior and my early dragon days, I was obsessed with the idea that if when White made this fianchetto, I actually wanted my knight to be coming to e7 because it was on a kind of track around to d4, if that
Hmm.
makes any sense, rather than being on f6. Now, when White hasn't got their pawn on f4, that's not such a big deal, I don't think. So knight f6 is perfectly possible, but I would always play knight c6 here. Then
Okay.
after d4 takes, knight takes. Of course, here it's important you have to go g6.
Yeah,
You can't
don't
play, if you
do
play
knight
knight.
f6 now. It is difficult. It is difficult to keep the right order. It's good we have you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad I fulfil some role in society. Now, that whole idea, of course, is knight f6 is a classical dragon. That's not even a dragon. You might think casually, don't worry, I'm going to go g6 next go. Well, you wouldn't really be able to do that if I played bishop g5. That's blatantly obvious. And after bishop c4, g6, that too is a mistake because now White can play knight takes knight. Only good when you can follow that up with the move e5, of course, the point being bishop takes f7 check is going to be a little bit annoying to say the very, very least. Now,
True.
back we are then. So here we are. Knight c6. So what happened? d4 takes, and of course, as I mentioned, g6. Well, now, Anna, this is the other knight d5 move that sprung to mind. And this, as well as the
Uh-huh.
one that you give, carries the idea of knight b5, simply looking to get a nice little fork here. And I remember seeing this in a game between Robert Bellin, who I think was an IM, and Tony Miles, who was one of England.
Well,
This was in the British Championships of 1982. So obviously I was quite young, but I came across this game. Um, so what would you do here then? Supposing you were faced with this position with black.
yeah, looking as if a6 comes to mind, right?
Yeah, so the problem is if you play a6, yeah, bishop e3, and now you have to worry about this
Nasty.
followed by this, and then you're having to make a lot of queenside moves rather than getting developed. So actually, and this is where you learn probably the best move is just to go bishop g7 anyway,
Oh,
attacking that knight, and after knight to b5, say, well, you're trying to do a fork. I will go rook b8 to stop it, and if White wants to go in here, then in order to avoid losing a knight, he's got to do the hokey cokey, come back out. And this is how the game went. Here and then b5, and in actual fact I think black has the better position here, bishop to b7. Now the only real weakness is here, but black has got quite a lead in development. The king could come here. Not impossible to consider taking that and putting the king onto g7 and putting the pawns on dark squares as well, but I quite like retaining my dark squared bishop personally. So that, Honor, is a line well worth remembering here. Okay, so if they goes there, a6, I think bishop e3 is a bit of a problem. That is what I feel. So you say, no, I don't fear that at all. You can do that. You're going to make about 55 million knight moves in a row if you really want to stop me from castling. And as we know, there's loads of Dragadorfy lines where black doesn't even castle anyway. So that's underrated, overrated, whichever way you look at it, I suppose, basically. Now, we have deviated and we are now returning to this moment here, which is the big story of the day. Now, let me show you, let me point out to the audience what you told me about this move. Now I know relayed to you kind of partly by Andrew Martin. Is that right, basically?
a little. A
Now,
little.
the whole point is it is, in case the readers had the readers, oh, just forget that. Just keep editing that out. Right. Anybody has got it. Knight takes e4. Woo! That's a free pawn. Well, there's no such thing as a free pawn or free lunch around here because after knight takes c4, as you pointed out, there is one way that it suffers and then there's more than one way. This is the line you pointed out to me. Knight b5 threatening knight c7. It's quite cute. Knight a6 stopping the fork on c7. Queen d4, a different type of fork.
Oopsie daisy.
Knight d4. Now, queen a4.
Oopsie
Oh
daisy.
dear. Oh dear. Discovered check city, which would be checkmate. Not good. Bishop d7. And now.
You can see it, right, viewers?
Yep.
Oh, oh,
Well, this one here, check.
oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
we have a check on d6, whichever way black blocks. So, for example, bishop e7. Oh dear. Oh dear. And oh dear. I mean, that is pretty terrible to say the least.
We
I
don't
should.
want that.
We do not want that. And if queen e7, then we're just going to lose. Oh, my word. It's even worse. We're losing that knight over there. That's a free piece.
You know what I was
However,
thinking about? I thought about queen takes a6, but it's probably not that effective. We are not winning enough pieces.
queen takes. Well, whereabouts would that be? Roundabout. Oh,
Um,
here you mean. Oh, yes. You, Anna. Well, okay. Let's talk about the
but
sequence.
I mean, like this, I don't think it's good for black. But I think the knight can just take on d5, probably, right?
Well, hang on. If we're assessing this position for 5, 6, 7,
Yeah,
you
now
might.
white has a rook more at the
You have an
moment.
extra rook. You know, you might lose that. So that's probably not bad either.
Yeah.
But can I show you something else? It's kind. The problem is this move here loses to a number of moves. There's an even cooler move that white can play. Now, by the way, on I'm not really happy about the concept you have been turning to the dark side by contemplating. Well, you weren't thinking about doing this from the white perspective, were you, Anna?
No, but it is good for black to
Good
understand
grief!
that
I
there are
think
some traps.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If I see you doing this with white, Anna, I will be, I think Anakin Skywalker has better morals than you, aka Darth Vader. Now, here we go. Bishop b5 check.
You
Now,
were the chosen one.
look at this. Bishop b5 check. So what you do, you have to block that. Now, look at this. This is quite cool. Knight d7, queen e2. Attacking that knight.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. And when
Checkmate
black says, I'm going to
threats.
move my knight, it's a case of who can spot what move white can play here to take advantage of
Oh,
pins.
beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
that's quite.
castling. Oh, no.
That is, look at that. That's harsh. So that's one little square to it to come in on here. And wait. If he goes bishop d7, well, I mean, look at this. Queen e2 again, f5, and now the knight can come in here. It's like a disaster, these squares. And then, yeah, we'll have a little bit of forking going on over there. For example, yeah, I'll have that rook, and then, oh dear, I'll have that, and then I'll have that check. And it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Now,
So what to do?
what to do? Well,
Don't
first
take
of
the
all, what
pawn.
not to do is don't take that pawn. Now, you gave me some nice little piece of analysis. Knight takes d5.
That's what I played.
Now, the question here is, you've given me the move bishop b5 check. Why do we think white can't just take that knight with their pawn?
Well, why can't white just take the knight with the pawn?
Well, I think the idea is then, remember Chris's golden rule is look out for checks. And that will pick up that pawn threat. Albeit, I suspect white gets some sort of compensation.
Just wanted to say,
Yeah.
yeah, that this it's unclear at least.
Yeah, I don't think it's so clear. Absolutely. So bishop b5 check, though, as you pointed out, avoids losing the pawn. And this is the analysis you gave here. And then the queen check, forcing the knight to go back to c3, and black comes here. Now, the idea normally is white, but black usually avoids taking a knight first time round on d5 because it means that white gets this kind of annoying half-open file. So, for example, you gave me a little bit for more analysis, rook e1 attacking the pawn, and rook e8, not an ideal situation to be defending a pawn with a rook, but this nice little sequence you gave, bishop takes c3, pawn takes c3, and in e5.
Yeah, e5 is a killer move.
Well, yes and no. The idea is obviously you should be very nervous about some little gaps here because you don't want that queen in here and the bishop here. But I think the knight to d7 is going to be able to, get some dark square control back over there. But actually, did you consider this is where your analysis stopped? But I thought I'm going to play this analysis a bit further on.
Okay.
I'll have that en passant after all. And you say, no, 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 surely you can't do that. Your bishop's on pre. And I say, really? Are you really wanting to be wandering your king all the way down there? So you kind of stopped your analysis a bit prematurely, I would say. However, the good news,
Oh, I thought Queen E7. Okay.
well, Queen E7 by who?
Black.
Yeah, Queen E7 as well. Then the White Queen. The truth is, I don't think that White gets enough compensation. So don't panic about that. Don't
But
panic.
it's
Yeah,
good to analyze it further. That is so true.
it is so true. Now, Anna, finally, so I believe you have hit the nail on the move that after knight d5, if you're going to take anything, take the knight and not the pawn. However, and this is where we come on to our final thing.
Now.
I knew this rang a bell, this line, as soon as you sent it to me. And I thought, I've faced this move before a couple of times.
Oh.
And I finally got hold of that Winning with the Dragon book. And there was my mum. And there it was, 1989 Ramsgate Open. Chris Ward playing with the black pieces in the dragon.
No.
And I looked at the game and I chuckled to myself and thought, Arna's going to like this game. He's
No.
going to like this game.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you instead what I did when I was faced with this position, which I actually think is a very reasonable alternative as well. Are you ready for it, Arna?
I am ready.
I played Bishop G7 and said, well, I'm not going to take either of those pieces because I don't want to win a pawn and then lose horribly to any of those aforementioned grim tactics. I don't want to take the knight just yet and allow the half-open e-file. I will remove that knight on my own terms. So I'm going to go Bishop G7 with obviously with the intention of castling fairly soon. So one of the ideas behind White doing this is to say, no, if you don't take me now, you don't get the chance to
Exactly, yeah.
castle. However, White is a little bit loose now on these squares here. So in this game, I was quite young back in 1989, actually, but I was still a dragon player and I was quite a good player back
Barely
then.
36. Oh.
Queen B6, you've seen this coming now. Probably any good French defense player would know about that move. So I played here and he played bishop check. Okay. Bishop to D7 and he swapped off and I took back with a knight. So I've got these things going down here, but of course I still cannot castle in this particular position. Right. Now, my opponent. It does lead me to a little deviation that maybe I didn't mention. In fact, I'm going to... This is great. This is like Christmas. Look, you notice I got my kind of...
It absolutely makes sense now.
I am now going to jump us back for a second to the only... I don't know how we managed to forget this, but the only deviation which kind of made any real sense is actually bishop to G5 here on move 6. And there is a little system. I do quite like that where White goes giving the check, getting the bishops out. Woo! Bit further afield than normal, still with the intention of casting queenside. We may or may not have mentioned this, but generally speaking, it is not a good idea for White to swap off these light square bishops because the important thing is you lead control of the C4 square. So a game, I know we've come back quickly and people of course have this ability to press that pause button at any stage if they'd like to. But this is it, Queen to E2. This is a game I always remember. A6, bishop takes, knight B7 and castles queenside, and the rook comes to C8. Now, Christmas quiz, shall we? Here we go. What would you? Well, let's talk about what might White crumbs I just quite do here. Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, what would be the standard approach if White played F4? Have people been watching seriously these last couple of years the Dragon show?
Queen A5.
Queen A5, not bad, Anna, not bad. Activating Her Majesty, not bad at all, maybe. Better than that.
It is E5.
Looking to get the E5 square for the knight, but leaving the D6 pawn a little bit ropey and conceding the outpost on D5. Nope.
Damn it.
Anna, are you ready for this?
Okay. Already?
Yeah, already. Why not? I'm loving this.
Why
Look at
not?
this. Pawn, and incredibly enough, you might not believe this, but actually, I even, because, I feel I have to do research for these, I'm hours and hours I spend researching for these shows. And rook takes c3 is the top engine move in this position for black.
Oh,
Incredible. And you think normally they'd be a bit more materialistic than that, wouldn't you? So this is queen c7. And there was a game here where white played. Well, one of the problems is if you try and defend this, A, it can be attacked with the king, and also this knight might be looking to occupy that square here.
hmm.
Rook h e1, h6. This is a game. Castles. So black is basically just playing on the exchange down. But look what happens here. Queen c5. King, the white, and the whole point is this is kind of like beautiful stuff over here, and the knight is just hopping in here. I mean, this, and the game actually, as it happened, was totally horrendous. And then the black wins back the exchange and all sorts of horrible things as well, winning back the material. Rook takes c3. Remember, we must not forget that move at all times. Out of interest, and look at this, we're still deviating. Here we go. The other idea is if, in fact, here, when we were here, well, here we're going to do it. If rook he1, look at this, everybody here. This is the game we were looking at. But one of my main points here is if a white moves the knight away on d5. Look at this. Just normal chess, knight e5, and then we're going to occupy the c4 square. Key square for this knight is the c4 square. And look at all this stuff here coming down here. Have we got a tactic on its way?
We do.
Why is that working? Because, of course, if pawn takes knight, we can take that knight on d4. And if here,
Rook.
check that. Oh, that's pretty cute, isn't it? Check. Full king, and if he takes, he's pinned. There we go.
Nice.
Now, so why did I do that? Why, oh, why did I go back there? So we've covered all of our deviations, but Anna, let's live it. Because I'm trying to milk this game because you're going to like the end of it, okay?
Okay.
Right, so here we are. We're now back on the main case, Queen b6. So my opponent here, back in 1989, if you could hop in your time machine, you could go back and see this game in action, played c3, and I thought,
It.
I'm having that pawn. Thanks very much. Because if I can have that one and that one, then again, that knight's going to be a bit of a problem. White castled, and I said, yeah, you're getting developed. Good on you. Thanks, I'll have another pawn. My opponent, knight b5, hitting the queen and maybe looking to get here. Of course, this rook's on kind of on prise here. Maybe I just said, no way, thanks. Queen c4, and white played a4 to protect his knight. I think if he played rook b1, a6, his knight's then forced to go back here, and I could have, yeah, I'm enjoying having even some more pawns. Maybe even some more pawns. And then even, look at that. Look, I've got loads of pawns. His knight's stuck on the edge. His bishop's a bit precarious and all the rest of it. I just need to obviously figure out something to do with my king at some stage. He played a4. Right. So I thought, shall I take that rook? Go on then. Took the rook. Now, actually, I think probably the best move here would have just been a simple move. Pawn to f6. You know, blocking out that. My king can come to f7. I'm exchanging about 50 billion pawns up at the moment. But I wanted to be a bit snazzier. I played knight e5. This game. I can't believe it. Right, knight e5. You ready for action?
Yes,
Pawn
please.
to f4.
Oh.
Because I appear to be pinned. Check. King in the corner.
Oh my
Knight
God! I'm
g4.
seeing it. It reminds me of Anderson's Immortal.
I think maybe this is it. He probably hopped in his time machine and got the idea from me.
True.
Now, queen takes h8. Check. I'll have that rook. And I'll have that rook.
Oh my goodness! How much rated was your player?
Check. I think he felt that he was still covering the c1 square, which is quite rare now. The whole point being that knight is out of bounds because of queen c1 check.
How beautiful! I mean,
King. And I think we all know this little pattern by now.
He left it. He was kind
People are
enough
fun.
to let you.
People are friendly in England. You see, we're not like you guys over there.
Wow, what a game indeed.
I'm not entirely sure how much of it is sound, but but it was good fun anyway. So yeah. So Anna, that was okay. The key point then, everybody, and do take this away from today, is that if you see the move knight d5, first thing is do not panic. That is always stay calm, remain calm at all times. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and all that, and then say no. I smell a rat. I'm not going to take that pawn on e4. And
Say
then just
it
pick,
into his face when he's across the board. Say
say,
no. I smell a rat. And then
yeah,
you make your
exactly.
move bishop g7.
Exactly. And then confidently play either knight takes knight or bishop to g7. That would be my
And
recommendation.
just if you say that and you play and you take the pawn, just
Yeah, don't take that
that
pawn, please.
backfire. That's very dramatic for comedic effect, but
I think we'll call this, from now on, we'll call this the anti-Christmas variation. I think
I
knight takes.
love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good to be prepared. You've tackled a couple of more variations. Dear lovely people, we wish you enjoyable
We
holidays.
absolutely do, everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll be back in January, won't we, Anna?
Absolutely.